Hey everybody, it's your favorite realtor, Byron J. Elliott, also your host of the Realist State show. We're glad you chose to join us today for this episode. We're really excited. We've got a special guest with us today. He's not only a personal friend of mine, but somebody I've grown to really admire. And I think once you hear his story and see what's going on with him, I think you'll become one of his followers as well in terms of some of the things that he's doing. So we want to welcome to the Real Estate Podcast today, all the way out of Michigan by way of New York, by way of a whole lot of other stops in between. My brother, Jahi Watson. Hey.
Glad to be here, man. Glad to be here.
Yeah, man. I'm glad you can make it. Really, really glad you can make it. So, in terms of introduction, tell the people who you are, man. Who are you? What do you do? What's up?
Currently, I run a label called Master Craft Productions LLC. We're based in Michigan. But as far as that's just where we're based, but we work with people in all different states, primarily between New York and the Virginia area right now. And we're just putting out music, man, trying to better the world through the gift of sound.
Nice. So when you say production, I heard you just mention it. So you're doing music, mostly music production.
Correct.
Okay. And does it matter in terms of genre? What's your areas of focus? What are you into?
Well, what I'm into and what we currently do is two separate questions. I mean, I'm into pretty much everything, as long as it's good quality music. But as far as what I'm working on currently, primarily hip hop, some R&B, some gospel. And then there's some alternative things going on in there as well. So we're not all over the place, but we're in a variety of different genres, so to speak.
Wow, so that's as they would say, that's pretty diverse, or that's a pretty broad spectrum. So I guess maybe it would be good if the folks who are listening today could get an idea of how you ended up with that kind of a spectrum, that kind of a background. Like how do you end up knowing something about hip hop, but something about gospel too, and R&B and all these different genres? How does that come about for a young cat like yourself?
I would have to say it started from even before I was born. My dad is a musician, and he's still a musician to this day. And when I was born, I had a studio in my house, like from the day I was born. So it like hearing, drums and things at 2-3 in the morning has like been my life since I was born. And at that time, not to get too far into it, but at that time, MIDI was just coming out around like the early 90s, and my dad was one of the first in the Nassau County area to actually have a commercial sounding studio right in the house. And that I would say started the journey, so to speak. But the music that he plays and the music that he was recording at that time were totally different. He plays a lot more jazz and old school R&B 70s stuff, but he was producing a lot of hip hop at that time. So it just kind of, and then jumping forward from there, I ended up going to the church which is where I learned how to play, which is where the gospel comes in, you know what I mean? And that was a big impact in my life as well. Just understanding what I had been hearing my whole life, learning how to understand it and actually physically play it was where the church came in and helped me put it all together. So I would say that's where the variety and the range comes from.
Wow. So some of it was you were just kind of born into the environment, and so then the environment was kind of born into you.
Correct.
Yeah. Shout out to my man Big Ray, to your dad. So your dad, one of little trivia note, is one of the first studios that I was able to work in as a young producer back in this had to be in the early to mid 90s, early 90s, I would say, late 80s, early 90s. And I remember going there, and you could run into anybody in that studio, anybody from your local celebrities. It could have been Busta Rhymes any given day. It could have been Father MC any given day. And so, knowing that you come from that kind of a background, it starts to make sense now how you end up in the production world. And then coming through the church background, I can remember your house was situated pretty close to your church home.
Yep, right up the block.
Up the block. Shout out to the ABC crew.
That's right.
Antioch Baptist Church in Hempstead. They put out some of the greatest into the world.
They did. And that's a fact.
Shout out to the big man, Bishop Elliott. Yeah. So the things that we're talking about in your present operations, honestly, are very much connected to where you come from. So if that be the case, now tell me about some of the projects. You say you're in Michigan now. Y'all are based in Michigan.
Yep.
And you have a new company that's been around for a year or two now.
Correct.
Okay. Talk to me about your company and what you guys are into.
Well, Master Craft Production LLC is the name of the company. And like I said, what we do is we sign really good talent, and we get that talent to the world, and we just try to make the best possible music that we can actually make. It's really that simple. It's not like rocket science. It's literally trying to make the best quality music, because I believe that that's what's the industry has forced people to concentrate a lot more on the money aspect of it as opposed to the quality. And I don't think that those two things have to be exclusive. I think you can get the money and still make like the quality that the people need, because music is not a thing that people just like. They actually need it. It's sound, it's vibrations, it's feeling, it's emotion. And we just try to capture all of that to the best of our ability with the skill sets that we have.
Yeah.
And put that out to the world. That's basically what Mastercraft is.
Wow. So now that sounds exciting, because in the music industry these days, I'm one that spent some time in that industry, in that world, in that space, and I get frustrated sometimes because it seems like the younger crowd, the audience, the argument always happens between the older generation and the younger generation. And it starts to seem like the younger crowd may not be paying as much attention to the nuance or to the actual culture that goes into the how much detail goes into creating great art, great music. And sometimes it seems a little bit cookie cutterish, but it's good to know that there are young folks, doing a new thing and continuing to hold very high the standard in terms of production. So now let me ask you this, because I know this has to be a challenge for you. You're a young man. You're not a doctor, are you?
Not a doctor.
Not a doctor. You're not a lawyer, are you?
Depends on who you're asking. But
okay. You might be a hood lawyer, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And you weren't born with a silver spoon in your mouth.
Correct.
So now the question becomes, how is it that you're able to finance a record label? How is it that you've come into a position now where you can afford to financially handle sustaining, artists as a producer? And I see you've got some equipment in the background there. Is that your own studio there?
Yeah, it's a few things half finished. You can't even see the other side because it's all behind the thing. But yeah, studio things are happening. Now to answer your question, the way that I've been able to finance my dreams, my goals, my passion is by doing a little bit of everything that I can within music. Like over the years, I've done so many live shows. I've done some touring. I've done it's just so many things. You can mix records. You can write. It's like multiple different ways to get money within music without having to be an artist. You know what I mean? A lot of people think that, you have to be an artist and, selling beats, playing the keys and mixing records, even doing live shows as far as being the sound man. That it's just so many different ways to get it. And beyond that, I've also invested stock market
There you go.
in the past few years. That has been something that has been tremendous to as far as building wealth quicker at the rate that I need to in order to keep this sustained.
Yeah.
So between the stock market and also one of the other things I do in my spare time, maybe once or twice a year, is I'm into classic cars, and I've learned how to make that a sustainable thing as well, as far as being able to buy at certain prices and being able to sell at other prices. You know what I mean? So all of these things together is what helps me fund my dream and my passion, and not have to honestly have a boss. You know what I mean? And that's big for me, because I don't tend to follow the rules so well sometimes when they don't make sense to me.
I understand. They used to have the thing back in the day, bring your own BYOB, right? And you're supposed to bring your own bottle or whatever it was to the party. But I'm glad the new BYOB is be your own boss.
Yeah.
And do what you got to do. So I'm glad you clarified some of that, because coming from that industry of music and production and performance and all that kind of stuff, I was trying to connect the dots between how gig money turned into a record label, because I know that gig money ain't enough.
Right.
And the stuff you run around and you can work for and scramble for. I mean, we do what we got to do in order to keep ourselves fed and clothed and doing what we need to do. But somewhere along the line, it took some management savvy, some economic management savvy to be able to convert that 15 cent into $1, and be able to take gig money and make it a significant investment in the stock market. So if you can just take us through some of those steps. If there's somebody listening today on the podcast, somebody watching on YouTube or one of the other platforms, I'd like them to know, if they want to be able to begin to make a transition, how do you go about getting involved in the stock market?
Well, the first thing that I did was realize where I was spending money frivolously in ways that just didn't benefit me, and started to, so I guess the first thing to do is just budget. Look at where you're spending and what dollars can you afford to not spend and still have a certain lifestyle and still have a certain happiness or whatever. But once you figure out where those extra dollars are, you take that money and before you put it in the stock market, actually what you want to do is you want to research these companies, as far as look at their depth, look at their, what they're saying that they made, because all of this is public knowledge. These are publicly traded companies, right? So you can look at just their what they've done for the year, and then their trends in the past few years. Look at what they're trading for and see if that makes sense for you. And a lot of times with these, depending on the company, everyone's different, but a lot of times you'll get a dividend every four months, or just for owning the company, you know what I mean? And you can now reinvest that. And if you buy at the right prices, or because when you do your research, that's what you're researching. Is what I'm looking at on paper worth me to put any amount of money, or the amount of money that they're asking per share? And does that make sense for me and my finances?
Right.
So that's what I would say. You really gotta take your time. You need to look at just look at your budget, and from there, just kind of see what's going on and what makes sense.
Okay, so I heard you say you need to control frivolous spending, and then do some research on the different companies that you would consider investing in. Now, what are your thoughts about what types of companies a person should consider? Should it be something that they saw on TV? Should it be something that they personally are a consumer of, or should it be something that they have a personal attachment to, or does it not matter? What are your thoughts about that?
I like to invest in things that I personally could benefit from, which would be tech, and just things that make sense for me, the finance world as far as banking, because those things I have to deal with every day, for me. And then you do take your risk. I wouldn't say only invest in things that you personally, deal with, because there are certain things that I might not deal with, that if I look at the company, it just makes sense on paper. So I wouldn't want somebody to get too attached to the idea, but I would say you should start with at least a sector that is benefiting you, on other ways. That's the route that I took.
Okay. So your route was not to be too emotionally attached to the investment itself, but more of a business approach and a business decision.
Right.
Okay. Listen, before we continue, I got to take a pause for the cause and just remind everybody out there that's watching, everybody that's listening, you want to make sure you press that like button. Make sure you share, make sure you subscribe, so you can help to spread these powerful conversations all over the internet. People need to hear this kind of stuff, that there are some regular folks that have made their way to success just using some simple principles and operating in the realist state. Operating in the real, reaching for the ideal. Like, share, subscribe. Do it now. Okay, cool. Back to our conversation. So, all right. So let me see if I can challenge you a little bit. I think I know you well enough to come at you a little bit. Let me see. Your first pointer, or your first suggestion for people looking to get into stock investing, was that they pull in or rein in frivolous spending, and spending money that doesn't make much sense to spend. So I'm gonna put you on Front Street. If you don't tell the truth, I'm telling the whole internet what I know. All right. So go ahead and tell the truth. What is your greatest area of challenge right there? What did you have to pull in when it was time to kill all the ridiculous spending? What was your problem?
That's a great question. Well, I had two. I would say one is, I love fashion. I love clothes. I just like putting things together. I like colors, and found myself spending a lot of money on clothes that were unnecessary at one point. And also cars, like not cars to invest in though. Cars that I was like driving, like, and there's nothing wrong with driving a car. You have to get from place to place, but it didn't have to be those specific cars that I was spending on. Like, I could have got the same thing done and lost more money on at the end of the day than it made me, and it felt good. But just knowing what's a real investment and what's not, and those cars are definitely, that's a tricky one, because they can be an investment if you're looking at it a certain kind of way, but I wasn't looking at it that way at the time. So it was just about driving. So I would say those are the two areas that I still struggle with to this day. It's not a thing of, I don't do it. It's just, I do it a lot less, you know what I'm saying? But I still have those struggles.
Okay, so a person who has some challenges or some things that they need to get in check, it's possible to bring those things in check, but still move forward in your investment and in your business aspirations. But it takes some self-control to be able to put those things in the proper space. And then when we've made good investments, we give ourselves the ability to go ahead and buy some of the things like the clothes and the cars and whatever else. You got a bunch of gadgets in that room too. You don't try to fool me and make me think that you're using every piece of equipment in there. Some of that stuff is in there just to look pretty. You just had to have it.
You might be right.
Yeah. I know how it is. I got a little setup myself, so I get it. I understand. Well, tell you what, man. First things first, we got to have you back because we haven't even scratched the surface of our conversation. So we're going to have you back in terms of, kind of digging a little further into the economic strategies, because I think you have some stuff to share that we didn't get a chance to share today. We're just introducing each other to the world. But I also want to have you back as part of a larger panel conversation, if you're down with that. Where with maybe 2 or 3 other young folks like yourself that can talk and share a little bit about some of the strategies that have worked for us in business, whether it be stocks or whether it be real estate, or whether it be some other entrepreneurial thing that we're doing. So I would hope you'd be open to doing that. A quick shout out as well. We might as well take the opportunity. Your wife is also in a professional area that is very helpful. Give her a quick shout out so we can set her up maybe for an interview one of these days.
Yes, Ebony M. Watson. She's my wife. She is one of the best therapists to ever do it. She really has a passion for it, and you definitely check her out. Ebony M. Watson. I would tell her to come to the studio right now, but I know she's studying right now. She has some things going on, but she check her out. She's doing some big things, and then together we're actually building some businesses. One thing in particular is learning how to incorporate music into the therapy realm in a practical way, and it's so much to unpack with that. But Ebony M. Watson, that's her name, and she's really dope.
Excellent. Shout out to Ebony. She's another one of our sisters from where we come from. And I'm thankful to be connected to folks like y'all. I'm really excited about the way y'all have, weathered some storms, and now you're beginning to prosper, and you're beginning to really, really blossom and do what you need to do out in the Michigan area. So we're having impact. I guess finally, man, we got to get out of here pretty soon, but where can people reach you if they want to get connected to you, either for production or if they want to have a conversation with you about investing or doing anything like that? How can people get in touch with you, man?
And my not email, my Instagram is Master Craft Pro. Master Craft Pro. You can just DM me, reach me there, check out some of the music that we got going on. We got some things dropping this year. Should be really, really exciting. This is going to be a really exciting year. And you can Master Craft Pro. That's me on Instagram.
Excellent. Master Craft Pro on IG. And if you have any other trouble, or if you need to get in touch with the brother and you're having any difficulty, reach out to us at the Realist State, and we'll hook you up. We'll give you what you need in order to make that happen. So I think we're pretty much out of time today, but we are definitely going to have you back real soon. Thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule, man, to come and join us today. And if there's anything you want to share as a last thought with the people, what would you tell them if they needed to hear some words of wisdom coming from Mr. Jahi Watson, the Master Craft?
Life is simple. That's it.
You heard it, folks. You heard it first here. Take that, use it, and make yourself rich. Life is simple. So listen, we hope you're to see you next time on the next episode of The Realist State. We're glad you came. Make sure you, again, like it, share it, subscribe it, make sure somebody knows about it. We're simply trying to host an authentic conversation without no frills, no fluff. We just want to bring it to you real and give you some stuff you can use to make your life better, to lift your levels. Next time, Mr. Watson, we're gonna need to talk about some real estate too. We've got some real estate ventures we're getting into together. We got to share that with the people.
That's
All
right.
right.
That's right.
But until then, make sure wherever you go, whatever you do, don't forget, remember, keep it real.